Elena, a bag of discounted cereal, a bottle of bleach that reeks of ammonia and failed dreams. People always think the sound of a downfall is a glass ceiling shattering or a gut-wrenching scream in a house fire, but they're wrong. Real rock bottom? It sounds like the dry, hollow chirp of this damn barcode scanner. It echoes at 11 p.m. in a ghost town convenience store in the middle of nowhere. It's a constant reminder that after all the liquid silk gowns at the plaza and the diamond tiara that glowed under $1 million spotlight, my current net worth is exactly $15 an hour. After taxes, I've got just enough to buy a greasy burger before heading back to a studio apartment that smells like damp laundry and regret. My sister Chloe, she's so damn proud of her victory. She thinks she's some kind of messiah for throwing me out of that fake high society circus. She calls it freedom, but Chloe doesn't know one thing. Her justice? It's just another brand of cold-blooded cruelty. The world looks at me and sees a fallen princess finally getting what she deserves. They get a kick out of watching me sweep floors. But when I look in the mirror, I don't see a criminal. I see a sacrificial lamb. I'm the fall guy for my father's rot, my mother's cowardice, and the stone-cold malice of the sister I used to call the invisible one. Chloe, you didn't do this for justice. You did this because you wanted to watch me rot in this humiliation, but you tracked mud into the wrong house, sis. You're about to find out that invisible goes both ways. Elena, Chloe always whines about how she was invisible, how she was ghosted on the kitchen floor while everyone else ate steak. But did she ever stop to ask what it felt like to be visible 24/7, to have a spotlight burning your skin every second of your life? Since I was 6, my life didn't belong to me. My parents turned me into a showroom piece. I wasn't allowed a single smudge on my blazer. I wasn't allowed to cry when I fell off my horse because sterling girls don't do weak. And I was never allowed to come in second. Coming in second at a horse show meant a week of being starved of affection and my father's terrifying, icy silence. My parents never loved me, Chloe. They loved the way I reflected their success. I was the gold-plated proof that they were perfect parents with a perfect life. You gotta hide in the shadows. You gotta cough. You gotta be sick. You gotta be a brat. Because you were invisible, you had the luxury of being real. Me? I had to wrap myself in layers of overpriced silk to hide the cracks in my soul. You think I threw those jewelry invoices in your face because I was a snob? No, I threw them because I was jealous. I was green with envy because you gotta be honest about how broken this family was, while I had to pretend we were old money royalty until my lungs ran out of air. Mom said, "Elena, you have to marry into the Sterlings to bail out your father's firm." Dad said, "Elena, be pretty because your face is the only thing hiding our empty vault." I was their only strategic play, and a pawn isn't allowed to have a heart. That moment, when Mark's mother walked onto that stage. For one delusional second, I thought she was coming to comfort me. I was ready to cry on her shoulder and confess that I was just a pawn in this game, too. But her touch was colder than the diamonds she was about to reclaim. She ripped that necklace off so hard the platinum clasp dug deep into my neck. Blood trickled down, staining my white silk gown. But she didn't give a damn. Nobody did. Give it back. You and your trashy family don't deserve a cent of the sterling name. The whispers of those 500 guests. Did you hear them, Chloe? They weren't for Dad. The actual fraud standing there like a deer in headlights. They were for me. They laughed at the doll being stripped bare. They feasted on the sight of the Princess of New York being outed as a cheap grifter. I looked down. You were there, Chloe, standing in the dark. You didn't save me. You didn't even look at me with regret. You looked at me like a finished project, like a pawn you just swiped off the board. That night, after the guests scurried away, after the plaza was nothing but the wreckage of $1 million lie, my parents didn't ask if I was okay. Dad didn't even look at the cut on my neck. He just screamed, "Why weren't you more charming? Why didn't you get on your knees and beg Mrs. Sterling to keep the deal alive?" That's when I realized I was never their daughter. I was a defective product being returned to the warehouse. And now that I had no street value, they were ready to throw me into the incinerator to save their own hides. Mom, Elena, you have to help me. Chloe, she sent the entire tax file to the feds. Your father is going to rot in prison. Please call her, talk some sense into her. She always looked up to you. Elena, a hollow, manic laugh. Beg her? You want me to beg the kid you called a human trash can? You still don't get it, Mom? She doesn't just want the money, she wants us to burn. She wants us to feel the same abandonment she choked on for 20 years. Mom, voice trembling to the breaking point. She can't do this. Elena, listen to me. If she knew the real reason I let her lie there when she was 12, she'd shut her mouth. That truth, it would destroy her too. Elena freezes, dropping the bottle in her hand. What are you talking about? It wasn't just because you prioritized my horse show? It wasn't just because you hated her? Mom, prioritizing you was just the cover story, Elena. The truth is much dirtier and much more cruel. Your father, he wasn't just a fraud. He was a monster. And I was the accomplice who signed your sister's death warrant that night. Chloe, dear, you think you're some pro-revenge mastermind? You think you've got this family figured out through the dry numbers in your little shadow ledger? You're dead wrong. You weren't left to rot because they loved me more. You were left there because that night you were worth more to them. Dead. That $5 million life insurance policy Dad took out on you a month before, that was the play. That was what was going to save his firm, not my wedding. They were waiting for you to stop breathing on that kitchen floor, Chloe. They had the claim forms filled out while you were fighting for air. You turned your sister into a monster with nothing left to lose. You pushed me into this corner. So, get ready. You think you won? No. You just opened a Pandora's box you're gonna wish you never touched. Enjoy your silence while it lasts, sis, because I'm coming back. And this time, the truth I'm bringing is going to turn your victory into ashes.